Welcome to Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy, the podcast where insights and innovation meet. Every episode, we dive into conversations with industry leaders, experts, and change makers, bringing you the stories and ideas in the renewable energy sector that shape our world. And now, let's jump into today's episode with your host, Wes Ashworth. Welcome back to Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy. It's an honor to have Vishal Lala, CEO of Polar Racking, joining us on the show today. Vishal is a visionary leader with over 15 years of experience at the helm of a company that's redefining the way solar energy infrastructure is designed and deployed globally. Under his leadership, Polar Racking has grown from its Canadian roots into a global powerhouse, expanding into markets across North America, the Caribbean, and beyond. Vishal's expertise lies in blending innovation, quality, and sustainability. Whether it's addressing extreme climates, championing agrivoltaics, or tackling large-scale projects like North America's largest urban landfill solar installation. In this episode, we'll dive into his journey, lessons in leadership, and his take on the trends shaping renewable energy worldwide. Plus, we'll uncover how Polar Racking is pushing the boundaries of solar technology in challenging terrains and emerging markets. Vishal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Wes. I really appreciate your time and allowing me to be here today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you and excited to get into it. So we'll start out a little origin. Can you share just your journey into the renewable energy industry and what inspired you to start Polar Racking?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It started back in 2009. Studied finance and worked for companies and I was trying to really figure out what do I do next? And solar was high on my list, or something in renewables was high on my list. And right around that time, the government of Ontario, or the province of Ontario here in Canada came out with a Green Energy Act, which ended up being a very generous or lucrative feed-in tariff program that required proponents to use Ontario, Canada-made racking, inverters, and modules. And at the time we had said, or my friend and I that I started the business with, we said, how do we participate in this? We were both looking for something new and thought, okay, well, development might be a route. What we did was we bought 6 kilowatts of inverter modules and racking. Material only $6 a watt, just to put things in perspective. In 2009, put this stuff together ourselves and realized, hey, there's a lot of parts in this racking. It's very complicated. And we didn't get a whole lot of support. And, then the discussion turned into how are we actually going to install something like this? Like, we did it in the summer, but how are we going to do something like this in the winter? Being Canadian, it was a real concern. There's going to get ready to be a huge solar boom, but was it practical to put together these sturdy parts to put together, to put up one solar module on a flat roof at the time? So literally, back of the napkin, sitting at dinner, put together a sketch of what it should be, hired a mechanical engineer to put some drawings together, and then went to market with it. And, truthfully, it was supposed to be just something to make revenue while we figured out what we really wanted to do. And it caught fire. We became the number one rooftop racking company in Canada, which was largely based in Ontario. We had the largest developers, the largest EPCs working with us. And again, it's because we focused on, solving a problem. Like, how are we going to build lots and lots of solar from, November? Like the summer challenge was already figured out, but how do you build from November to April, on a frozen roof with gloves on? And people really appreciated our solution. And as a result of that, the company was born. It's evolved a lot since then. It's grown a lot since then, but that's really how it started.
Yeah, I love it. I love those back of napkin stories, and especially it's like you get a live example to see that in real life and see it play out. So that's incredible. So as you mentioned, Polar Racking has been operating for over 15 years. We talked about those early startup days. What are some of the key milestones in the company's growth and development that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I mean, obviously launching out of the gate, we never would have expected that we would have got that huge jump right out of the gate. And that was exciting, and it allowed us to grow and add a lot of people and continue innovating, which was great. Setback in 2017, we had a new government formed here in Ontario that just kiboshed the solar program, for lack of a better word. And then we had to pivot and see, where do we go next? So we went to Western Canada. We went to the US, we went to the Caribbean, reinvented ourselves a little bit. Right around the same time, we've come up with our ground mount product, our fixed tilt ground mount product, and that also changed the business. We started, we hired geotechnical engineers. We started doing foundation design, foundation supply, supplying our fixed racking system for the projects that were all left here in Ontario. But like I said, lots of work in Western Canada and the US. And then in late 2021, we acquired one of our largest competitors and brought on a single axis tracker, as well as a lot of really, really talented people that had, worked in solar, but, in a different organization that was much more corporate. So marrying those two companies together was also a big milestone for us. And, now we're a leading supplier of trackers, mostly in the Northeast US, but, obviously all over Canada. And we're looking at international markets as we had previously discussed in Asia and the Middle East, and seeing exciting opportunities there right now as well. So
It's been an incredible journey for sure. And I think that thread is always tends to be there with successful entrepreneurs. It's like when the going gets tough, it's the pivots and the shifts and figuring out, okay, how do we make this work and where can we go or where can we shift our business or what have you. So that's so cool. And we'll get more into that as we go. So thinking a little bit about what's made your company special, and I know Polar Racking prides itself on quality and innovative solutions. What sets your products apart from others in the market, particularly in terms of design and durability?
right. So yeah, I really appreciate that question, because I feel like as you said, we've had to pivot a lot, and we've had to come up with new plans, and we've had to look at new markets. But the one thing we've never changed is the focus on quality. We're always trying to bring the most valuable solution to our customers. We've always played more to the owner than to the person that's, in and out of the project, like, quickly. And I think that's the only reason that we're here today, 16 years later, is because the quality is what we never, ever, ever compromised on. Like, I've always realized that these projects that we're building, they might change owners 3 times, but the reality is that they need to be here 25, 35 years, 40 years in the future. And, I'm out there putting, my name behind it, putting the company's name behind it. And I want to offer quality. I want to offer value. I want to offer a solution. And I want to be the best at it. And so, truthfully, Wes, like, we probably could have grown at times like much larger by offering something much cheaper. But I watched hundreds of companies do that in my time. I mean, you've been around the solar industry also. We go to, RE Plus, and there's 100 companies that are new, and there's, 200 companies that were there last year that are not there anymore. Right. And we've just kind of been, slow and steady, focus on quality, let the market come to us and appreciate what we're building. Don't get me wrong, like, we're very price competitive in the market, but we feel like our solution, adds the most value to the project. By the same token, we're never, the cheapest number out of the gate. Like, we want to be the most valuable proposition that you're looking at. And it's coming to us. There's more and more owners that are sticking with these projects long term, and there's more owners that have had, the issues, with whether it be frost heave or, challenges with the wind or whatever it is. And they're starting to get more picky about, what they select, and, we're here to offer them a solution. So
Yeah, I love that. Love the approach. What are some of the things, so comparing different racking solutions in terms of quality? Like, what are some of the things with your solution that are maybe different than the average product that's out there?
sure, yeah. I'll start with our single axis tracker, for example. Most single axis trackers are designed to build, 500 megawatt site, a gigawatt site in the middle of, let's say, Arizona or Texas. And those projects are great, by the way. And I want to be on those projects, but those are pretty
Yeah,
simple. Like, the ground is flat. It's pretty homogeneous. It's huge. There's not much constraints, and there's not much topography. We came at it from a different angle, where we said, the ground where solar is really being built, Canada, upstate New York, the Northeast in general, or the Northwest, it's not flat. It's hilly, it's rocky, it's hard, and, there's a lot of frost. And,
yeah,
your traditional driven foundation doesn't necessarily work the best in frost. Like, it could work good, or it could work well for the next 3, 4 years, but you get that 1 year where you get the deep chill and like, those foundations start popping out of the ground. And truthfully, we saw it happen with others that had come to Ontario in the early days and said, oh, no, no, it works in California and it'll work here, no problem. We
Yeah.
always do that. We've always done it this way, right? Which is
Famous last words.
exactly, that's the last word. So we really took the approach that like we need to find a solution for these sites that are not necessarily as pretty. So we designed a tracker that really rolls up and down the hills. If you have to grade with our tracker, you have to grade with anyone else. Like it's really that adjustable and it really flows that well. But most importantly, it attaches to piles that you would need to use in, the north. It attaches to all types of piles, by the way. So if you're listening and you have the 500 megawatt project in Texas, we'd love to have it. But if you got the project in New York and you need ground screws, like we have one ground screw, whereas everybody else has two ground screws and an adapter that, is connected to the bottom of the table. And that's a solution, but that's an afterthought almost, like, okay, how do we make this work? We went at it with like, this is where we're building, let's design the solution for this market, right? And our product works with ground screws and helical piles that are, very common in the Northeast and in Canada, but it also works with I-beams. It works with the ballasted foundation because we don't have the torque tube. So, it's much more adaptable to the ground conditions, which ultimately is one of the bigger risks. And I feel like people don't spend enough time thinking about it, but we spend a lot of time thinking about that. Like, let's not make the groundwork for our solution. Let's get a solution that works for the ground because the ground is there and it's the only thing that's not changing. And that's been our approach to these projects because again, we're always taking a long-term view. Like this thing has to produce power for the next 40 years. So let's do the right thing today so that, 20, 30, 40 years from now, someone else doesn't inherit the issues, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on a few things there just to dig more into that a bit. So, as you mentioned, that focus on challenging terrains and climates is unique. And I would say, also to your point, there's a lot of folks that design for not those environments and then try to make it work in those environments versus you've had that in mind from the beginning. Can you talk about a little bit more about how polar racking addresses those extreme conditions like frost, snow, high winds, and maybe why this matters for long-term project success? Like, why should someone care? I guess that's the main question.
right, yeah, no, that's a fair question. So I'll tell you a couple of things. Like when it comes to the Northeast and frost, like we focus a lot on foundation. That's your biggest risk. If you've ever, go into your backyard and, anywhere where there's winter and like, come spring and you see all these rocks that have popped out of the ground that weren't there in the fall, frost really pushes things out of the ground. And we really think a
Yeah,
lot about that. And we want to make sure that we're putting the right solution in. So that's why we made our tracker from the beginning adapt to our tracker and our fixed tilt and truthfully our carports all ready to accommodate to different types of foundation for frost and etc. And then secondly, like we just have very robust solutions. So we sell a lot of our fixed rack today in the Caribbean. Caribbean has obviously extremely heavy winds. And there's two things about that. One is you need to have a robust solution to withstand the forces, but two, you need to mitigate the areas where there could be potential risks. So whereas our rack generally has beefier members, everyone else has like lots of different parts and braces and lots of different fasteners, lots of different braces, lots of different connections. And wind is like water. It finds your weakest
yeah,
connection and then it's a zipper effect from there almost, right? So you want to have a rack that's not only robust when it's built, but easy to build, easy to QC, easy to make sure that, it was built right because ultimately, like you can design whatever you want, but if it's not built correctly, like you're going to get yourself in a whole heap of trouble anyway. So
yeah,
just mitigating the amount of decisions that can be made in the field and taking that out of the hands of the installer and putting as much of it as you can into the design of the rack. And truthfully, like our rack is not any more expensive than anyone else's. Like we're always competitive. Obviously we're growing, we're getting sales, but we are putting a lot of thought into that up front. Like how can we again provide a solution that end to end is more valuable, reduces the install time, reduces the risk, when it comes to all these load factors, and provides a solution that, that'll be there and last for a very, very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to put it out there, what's worst case scenario? Like a cheaper racking system where that is not, those thoughts are not put into the design, and somebody goes with that low cost solution. Like what's worst case scenario? What can people be scared of?
Honestly, so I'll give you a real life example. In 2022, Hurricane Fiona, you know, caused a lot of devastation in the US, and a lot of devastation in Canada. We had a solar site, 27 megawatts in Summerside, PEI. There's two sites in Summerside, PEI, 13 megawatt and a 27 megawatt. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with PEI, you're probably not, because it's small. It's like one of the tiniest provinces in Canada, so you can appreciate Summerside, PEI is that much smaller. But the site, Summerside, PEI, is right on the water. So huge winds, heavy, heavy snow in that area as well. And, like hard ground conditions. So, you really got to think about where you're installing and what you're putting up. And so Hurricane Fiona came up the coast. It didn't go to PEI, but strong winds in PEI. Our solution, 3 modules flew off one of the tables of, the 27 megawatt site. And that table had not been fully QC'd. It was still under construction. 13 megawatt site, foundations bent into, racking bent into, like complete rebuild of the site. And, we quoted on that site, truthfully, and when we lost it, I'd call the developer and said, like, hey, I'm not sure about your foundation, because our site's, a couple of kilometers or a mile down the road, and we have completely different results. And they're like, oh no, somebody stamped it, so we're good. And, that's what we find a lot. Like, oh no, they stamped it. They, like, who are you working with? Like, are you working with someone that cares about the quality, that understands the conditions? And that site got rebuilt, and there's a lot of lawsuits and stuff going on around that. But,
Yeah.
Wes, you're reminding me of things. So
Yeah, it's good.
the PM that was managing our site called me one day, a month earlier, and said, hey man, like, did I make the right decision here? Because the guys down the road are flying through that rack right now.
Yeah.
And they came by and they said, look at you guys, blah, 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 blah. And again, our product is very, very quick to assemble. And, that was just, I feel like that was a lot of gamesmanship from them. But he called me, it's like, why are their beams lighter? And so I obviously said, focus on quality. But truthfully, I got nervous too. I was like,
Yeah,
back to my
yeah.
engineering team, I'm like, guys, like, how are their beams lighter? It doesn't make any sense to me that they're able to do this. And like, we ran the models, and like the guys came back and they're like, look at the analysis, like, this, like the way that we did it is right. The loads are heavy, the winds are heavy, the snow is heavy. Like, we need to be ready now. Fast forward a month and a half, like, Mother Nature came and tested it, tested the rack itself, and like the results speak for themselves, really. Like no damage. And we had like 13 sites in Atlantic Canada with no, like, zero damage. And we had our competitors, like, product, like, all over the floor. And relatively speaking, there was a lot more devastation. There was homes, there was trees, there was everything like that. From solar wise, like, we were unscathed, knock on wood. But yeah, we saw what happens when you don't think about that, right? And that's the thing that nobody's really thinking about today, I feel, in solar, because there are just so many players and there's so many people in and out of projects, but it's something that we're always thinking about. And again, I really attribute that to the reason that we're still here and so many people are not, right? So
Yeah, no doubt. I love that the real life story really paints a picture.
yeah.
And Mother Nature's undefeated. Like, you don't know when it's coming, but it's coming at some point. A storm, something's going to happen, right? And then you think about it, and then it's all the hindsight of, oh man, we should have just, paid maybe a little bit more, it was affordable, and had a higher quality solution. And then too, like, there's a lot of components there. You think about the rebuild and that cost,
Yeah.
but also the liability, lawsuits and everything else that come about. So it's just not worth it. So yeah,
And by the way,
love that
like,
story.
our solution was evenly priced. It was just how
So
much.
it was like same price, very similar.
Very similarly priced.
Oh
That
my
was the
gosh.
feedback we got. They said, "Oh, we're just more comfortable with them because we saw them do this before. Like, they've done a lot of projects in the U.S. So they're like, oh, we're comfortable with them." But I'm like, guys, like, we understand what's going on here, and that's why we're winning in New York, because, like, we're used to the hard conditions. We're used to the ground conditions. We're used to snow and frost, and so that's why like we feel like we know we're bringing value. So
Yeah.
I'll give you another example actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
On our carports, we had a site, a 1 megawatt site in southern Jersey, and when we went to go do foundation testing, we found that there's very high water table. So we said, okay, well, like, this is not ideal because typically when you build a carport, drill a big hole, put your foundation in, put a big blob of concrete around it, and you build, and that's, what's used in 90% plus of carports, and it works, and it's very robust, and it's almost like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But in this case, we saw the high water table, and when you start pouring concrete down the hole, the water just washes it away, and you got to do all these special things to do it. So understanding foundations, and again, we're a racking company. I know I talk too much about foundations, but we're a racking company. We we design helical pile. So very challenging project. They had like a date to get their recs in, some New Jersey recs. I forget the name of the rec exactly. And they're like, it had to be completed by July 1st. And they obviously PO'd to us late because nobody's ever early. And like,
Right.
because we were thinking about the solution, like we got it done. We got it done ahead of time. Like the customer got their recs. Across the street was a 3 megawatt site that we lost. And
Yeah.
again, they went in and they just started drilling holes and pouring concrete.
Yeah.
And like the job got built like 6 months later because they couldn't control the washout of the concrete and
Right.
lost their racks. So again, like working with people that have solutions or that are focused on solutions, like in the long run and in the short run, like I feel that it does pay off. Right. And again, for us, it's like we don't compromise on that either. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And by the way, it was cheaper, like much cheaper in the end, with our solution, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's normally how it goes, right? I mean, it's one thing, sort of the upfront, which again, I think you're competitive there, obviously, and that's good. But it's also the long term and the all in investment, which is most important thing of the day. Shifting gears to a completely different topic, something we touched on was just agrivoltaics, and then that being a big topic in today's society, and Canada as well. I think even more so sometimes. But you mentioned agrivoltaics as a growing area for polar racking, and I'm curious, sort of, what excites you most about this dual use technology? What potential do you see for its adoption in North America?
Yeah, I see. It excites me a lot because again, it's a solution. It's solving a problem. A lot of pushback in Europe and Canada. We're seeing in the US right now of not using agricultural land to develop solar. And unless like, the government of Alberta came out, like you cannot use it unless you can prove that you can do dual use. And for us, like those challenges are exciting. Like we like to come up with solutions, and we've invested a tremendous amount of money, especially in late 2023 and 2024. We're continuing to invest to come out with a lineup of products. If you go to our website, you'll see the fence design, the umbrella design, the multi-tracker, and we're launching them one by one. We're going to build our first fence here in the next couple of weeks, followed by the umbrella. But we're really trying to solve this problem. And the interesting thing is, it's like all the studies show that if you use solar, whether it be the fence design or the multi-tracker design, it not only does it do dual use, like agriculture plus energy production, it actually increases the number of crops you get per year, because now when you're watering, the water's not burning off necessarily all day, and you're getting like, 3 crops of, blueberries or strawberries or whatever it is. And then now if you have the shade for, let's say, cattle to, feed and stuff like that, like less cattle are dying when it's really, really hot outside, because now you have a structure for them to go get shade in. So there's just so many extra benefits that we're seeing as we learn more and more about agrivoltaics. We're really focused obviously on the solution, the racking, the foundation, making sure it's robust, making sure that it's going to be there. Obviously, it's on agricultural applications, so people are going to be around it a lot more than traditional ground mounts. So we need to make sure it's safe and robust. But yeah, we're really excited about the practical application, and what this means for developers and farmers, and how that can help grow and proliferate the adoption of solar ultimately at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, it'd be really cool to see how it evolves over the coming years, and the technology changes, and it's only going to get better and better. So definitely excited to see where that goes. Thinking about your expansion that we touched on in the intro, so you've expanded beyond Canada into the U.S., the Caribbean, exploring new markets too, like the Middle East and Asia. I guess what have been the biggest challenges and lessons learned from these expansions?
So I'll tell you, we are in expansion mode right now. Challenges is just managing the different expectations, in the different areas and how to work with customers and just catering our communication to these customers in these different time zones and speaking their language, if you want to call it. But I'm excited. Last year, I went to India. I went to Saudi Arabia. I went, obviously China. I was in RE Plus, and like all the international markets they're buzzing. I went to the Caribbean show that was based in Miami, and they're buzzing. And the excitement for solar is it grows every year. Like that's the beauty about us being in this industry. It's just there's more and more and more of it. We get thrown these curveballs all the time with some political change and things that are really completely out of our control. But the overall adoption of solar, the runway is pretty looks pretty great, for the next little while. So, we have a world-class solution, that's fully wind tunnel studied and UL and bankability reports and all that great stuff. And, people are asking for it. The Saudi example is actually a really interesting one. We had a webinar about our tracker, like in just dedicated to the North American market. Like this is what we do. This is why we're different. No, this is a solution we're offering. Unbeknownst to me, there was two people from Aqua Power from Saudi
Okay.
Arabia that attended our
Yeah.
webinar, and they just saw it on LinkedIn. And the guy contacted me, or one of the gentlemen from Aqua contacted me after, and he says, "I really like your solution. Let's
Yeah.
see what if we can make this work in Saudi."
That's
So
cool.
we spent some time in Saudi in 2024. Our vice president is going back to Saudi next week to re-meet with a lot of those customers. But that's a your oil and gas market that's just going
Hmm.
all in on solar, and it's to another level that you wouldn't expect to normally see, and it
Yeah.
excites me. It's not like, in Canada at least, and I feel like, in some of the conversations in the US, like people try to make this like renewable or oil and gas. Like, why?
Right. Yeah.
Who said that? Like,
Yeah.
pitted these technologies against each other. It makes absolutely no sense. There's place for, great energy mix. I feel there's more security in having an energy mix as well. And solar has a great part to play in it because of the cost. Honestly, it's easy, it's fast. The costs have come down dramatically in the last 16 years. And, people are recognizing this all over the world. And it's actually less political in the rest of the world than it is in North America, which is,
Yeah.
it's a mind twist to me. Obviously I'm
Right.
born and raised in Canada, and
Yeah.
you consider this to be, fairly liberal country when it comes to, social values. And like, why is renewable energy a topic? Like, why aren't we all behind it, at the end of the day? And I ask myself that question way too much, and I know I'm not going to have, solve that answer, but, whatever we can do to help, grow it. I think, we're making a difference at the end of the day. So.
Yeah. I love all of that. I think one of my biggest objectives, even with this podcast, like information, great, but just helping bridge that divide. It doesn't matter, what side of the fence you're on, what industry you're coming from. Like, this is a great solution that should be embraced by everybody. It shouldn't be a political argument or those kind of things. So no, I agree with that.
But a lot, sorry, just to pick up on your point, like at the end of the day, like the largest landlords in the US of these solar farms are rural America at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people that has had these lands in their family for, hundreds of years, and they weren't necessarily making money, off of their operations. And now they're making great money, and the county or the municipality is making great tax revenue. And there was a lot of jobs created because of it, building these farms. And so like it's a win-win across the board at the end of the day. It's just, I feel like not enough people are getting that message.
Yeah. We're trying. We'll get it out there more and more.
Yeah, no, you guys are doing a great job.
Conversations like this are helping. We'll do anything we can. Shifting a little bit just to learn a little bit from your insights and just your experience. So, as a longtime leader in the renewable energy space, what are some hard learned lessons that have shaped your approach to business and leadership as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, um, specific to renewables, like you have to be adaptable. You have to move. The technology moves very, very fast. So you need to keep up with the technology, and so we can't get married to something for too long. There's always a better way to do things, and you got to be willing to try. The one thing I'll say is you learn, like you try a bunch of things, but you learn to cut it off. Like if something's not working, like let's cut and let's go. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, okay, like this didn't work. Let's try that. And it's all strategic in terms of making the investments or making the moves, but you can't like live and die by that sort. So like the ability to adapt, the ability to move, the ability to want to be better, like that's something that this business has really taught me. And then, the other thing is the team, like, Wes, like started this working day and night and doing a lot of it, bootstrap the whole thing and, we're with a really smart team, but a very small team. And now the team is much bigger, but you have to have dedicated people and people that care and people that want to be the best, and you got to treat them with respect, and then you got to appreciate their efforts. And, that's something that I definitely try to do. And the feeling is really mutual, like within the business, like our leadership team is really strong, really dedicated, really passionate. And like, I know like can't do this without them, and we can't accomplish our goals and our vision without them. And so, yeah, just finding great people that are super passionate, which this industry is really blessed with, is,
Yeah.
and appreciating them is really key to, growing any business at the end of the day. But this one,
Yeah.
because it changes so fast, like you need to have people that don't get discouraged quickly and are willing, like that can see the bigger picture and want to keep going after it. So
Without a doubt. Yeah, I've said this before. You can have the best technology and product in the world. If you don't have the right people supporting that and helping you build that, then it's a tough road and maybe an impossible one. So it's thinking about your team and fostering that. How do you foster that culture of innovation and quality within the team? What role does company culture play in Polar Racking's success?
yes, it's something that we're continuously working on. Obviously we have our director of HR and our VP of ops that are, and myself, that like we're really obsessed with this almost. Say like, how do we, because now we have a team in North America and we have, some US people and we have a team in India also. And like, how do we make them feel part of the mission? How do we keep them all striving towards the same goal? How do we make them feel heard? And that's definitely been challenging as we continue to grow, because like I've always been the person, like the door is always open, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to everyone, and like my best ideas are coming from sometimes the guy that started 6 weeks ago, like, hey, why don't you guys do it like this? And then like, oh, quickly, like he's got a great point. But as there's more and more people, I'm getting less and less feedback like that. So like trying to keep the feedback loop going and making sure. So I don't know, Wes, if I have like an proper answer for you, other than the fact that we're spending like a lot of time to put tools together, software tools together to share information. We do our regular town halls. We do a lot of events as company to get out of the office. So, for example, last year we did barbecues and we did bowling, but we also went to food bank, and we spent the entire afternoon like packing, December, holiday time, when the winter weather gets cold, the demand for food banks now are off the chart, more than it's ever been with the recent inflation struggles that people are having. And, we spent like 5 hours packing food baskets that were going to be delivered to families for free. And, that's when I really saw the team. Like, I know we work great together in the office because like
Yeah.
you're great at engineering and you're great at supply chain and you're great at accounting, but like we literally came together, and like even the people at the food bank were like, wow, you guys are efficient. You guys put this together.
Yeah.
And like the PMs that were PMing like solar jobs were PMing like how to organize the food collection. And it was just like, so it was a proud day for me to see the team. Like we can, any challenge we take on together, like we can tackle it and do it better than, anyone else. And, so I love that about our team. And yeah, the culture thing, like it is very entrepreneurial in that like we empower the people quite a bit. And we are focused on our goal of being the best. But yeah, at the end of the day, it really comes from, we have a lot of we have a lot of people that are very self-motivated and take a lot of pride in their work, and we're trying to do is enable that at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. And that's such a big piece that you hit on that, that person that had just started, right, and has an idea, and you actually just really listening to it and going like, actually, they've got a good point. Let's actually look into this. That's a drop that the ripples from that are exponent. That just multiplies across the company. That everybody else sees that, everybody else hears that, and then they know like I can bring ideas to the table. I can, and they'll take me seriously, even though it could be somebody in a hourly, part-time position or something like that. And some of the best companies I've ever talked to, that thread was there where they were like, everybody brings ideas to the table. Everybody's encouraged. They can have a voice and those sort of things. So you're certainly doing that, without a doubt. You mentioned something earlier I wanted to circle back to. So you mentioned you visited some international solar shows, and I think this would be good insight for the listeners as well. So these shows in regions like Saudi Arabia, India, China, thinking about those other markets and these other shows, what are some insights I guess you gained? How do you see global trends impacting the solar industry? What were some of your key takeaways from those?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll tell you is that they're live. So what I mean by that is, for example, Shanghai Solar Show I went to. I've been to Intersolar in Munich. Obviously I'm in RE Plus. Like this thing was like double the size. Like the amount of people, the amount of vendors, the amount of attendees, like it was just off the chart, like something that I've never ever seen before. So, that was one thing. And again, like going to Saudi, going to India, again, like just so many people, so many companies, like so much of an industry. And like I feed off of energy, like at the end of the day. And like,
Yeah.
so I'm excited. Like, yes, like I'm not participating in the market today, but I'm excited that so many people are excited about solar. So I could say like it's a global phenomenon. It's not just something that's happening here in North America or Europe, as it once was, actually, to be honest with you. So, from that perspective, it's really exciting to see the different innovation, to see what works in certain markets. Like I saw some of the solutions they were using in China, for example. Like I know it wouldn't work here in North America, but it's cool to see that they thought of that stuff and that different things like that. And then just there's some things that are overarching, like, like just all the new battery technology, like we saw that everywhere. And there's just so many players and so many different solutions, battery storage, like EV, like stuff like that, that wasn't a big thing in any of the shows, like even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It's just like massive now, massive.
Yeah. It really gives you perspective how quickly it's evolving. I think we say that a lot, but getting to really see it firsthand like that, and you're like, wow, in 3, 5 years time, that's only going to continue. So that's so cool. I wanted to touch on, so I briefly mentioned it earlier, Polar Racking has worked on some impressive projects, including the largest urban landfill solar installation in North America. Can you share some details about the project and what made it unique?
Sure. You know what? This is a project I'm really proud of because it takes me back almost to my rooftop days. So I love doing rooftop solar because we'd supply solar and it'd be on top of a Home Depot, for example. And I know we're using the power exactly where it's being produced. And you're putting the panels on an area that's otherwise would never be used for anything else.
Yeah.
And these landfill projects was exactly that. Like they're in the heart of Calgary. So, very close to the power base. And so just like, you don't have like, transmission going for miles and miles and miles and the losses that come with that. And then the landfills, they're there. There's nothing else you can do with that. So it's just the perfect place to use for solar. And I can't even think of another application to use there.
Right.
So yeah, extremely proud of that. Those projects, again, worked with one of the largest utilities in the country, ATCO, and the off takers. I'm forgetting now. Big banks, big technology companies. So like, I just like win all across the board, and like yeah, again, just contributing to a project that I felt like yes, the developers I'm sure did well, and everyone's doing well, but like what a great use case for solar at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that. And you'd love to see more of it, right? Especially those, like, to that point, it's like, what else is going to be, used there? But it's such a great use of the space that otherwise would just be sitting there doing nothing,
yeah,
nothing
100%.
beneficial
Yeah,
for the most part.
we've worked on a lot of those landfill brownfield projects in the US and in Canada. And again, it's great. These ones just happen to be like, one was 55 megawatts, the other one's 37.5 megawatts. Like just at a bigger scale and very visible. Like when you're in the city of Calgary and you're driving around, it's very, very visible for everyone to see. And I think that's great. So
Yeah, no, I love it. Thinking about the future and what's next for polar racking. Any innovations or updates we can expect from polar racking in the near future, whether it's agrivoltaics or other new product lines?
yeah, so agrivoltaics we spoke about, that's huge for us and our roadmap. And then the other thing is just continuous improvement. So we're improving all our products. We're coming out with, new feature on our carports, easier assembly for, our core product, which is our fixed tilt racking, and then a lot of improvements to our tracker to just make it easier and faster to install. And then we're all, at the same time in parallel, we have cleaning robots that we're working on, which are huge for the Saudi market, for example, and
Yeah, cool.
and different things like that. So yeah, definitely stay tuned. Agrivoltaics is big on our website, so you can check out that line today to see what that is. But yeah, the other product improvements, I'm super excited. Things
Yeah, I
that we've
love
been
it.
working on for a while, but obviously, it takes a lot of testing before you can release to the market, and we're in the testing phase on a lot of new features that we're adding to our products, and excited to bring them out to the shows and to the market, and see them. That's the other rewarding thing about our business. It is very fast paced, which makes it challenging, but like you can have an improvement, or you can launch a product and 6 months later, a year later, like you're standing in the middle of the field watching it do its thing, and then
Yeah,
that's very rewarding in itself, right? So
no doubt. Love it. And I will link the website in the show notes as well too. Anybody who wants to go there and check that out. Couple closing questions here as we get closer to time. So, what legacy do you hope to leave in the renewable energy industry, both personally and through polar racking?
It's one and the same pretty much. Like, I've lived in and breathed this company for the last 16 years. So I feel like it's part of me, but again, like, yeah, the legacy is quality. The legacy is quality, it's value, it's working with a reliable supplier that takes care of you, that goes the extra mile, and they feel like, okay, well, I did a project with Polar. Like I chose to do something really well and really great. And ultimately, that is the legacy that our name is synonymous with quality at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I want to hear your opinion on this or your perspective. So, thinking about this fast moving industry, and there's a lot of investments happening, there's a lot of new companies starting, coming about, new technologies emerging. Thinking about an entrepreneur today that's maybe they could be in the ideation stage of forming a business, or they're in that early stage, where you were some time ago. Based on what you know now and the journey you've been on, what's one piece of advice you would give to that entrepreneur that's early on in the journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think focus on creating value. Solve a problem, bring a solution, do something that people are really going to appreciate, and don't give up on that, because it's really, really easy to give up. So yeah, just focus on bringing something to the market that's valuable, and sticking to it, and don't let the small things get you off track. The one thing I will say in the renewable industry is, like, I go to the shows early on, and I just have people come up to us like, oh, we're doing this many gigawatts and that many gigawatts and this and that. And it's easy to get distracted and chase those things. No, like, focus on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what your mission is. Stay true to that, and you will be rewarded in the long term. I truly, truly believe in that. So don't get too distracted by all these things that are easy to, and you start chasing things, and those things don't necessarily work out. But if you do something consistently over and over and over again, and your commitment to quality, your commitment to value, like, you'll be much further ahead.
Yeah, sound advice there. And final question, if there's anything else, any other key takeaways, piece of advice you'd like to share with the audience, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, no, I'll just say thank you to you, Wes, for the opportunity. It's been great getting to know you as, we prepared for this podcast, and obviously we're friends now, so we'll know each other much longer. And lastly, I would say, we're here to solve solutions and problems and do something innovative. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to discuss.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, same to you. You are one of the good ones. So glad to call you a friend, and glad to bring this episode to everyone else. So with that, we'll wrap up today's conversation with Vishal, the CEO of Polar Racking. I truly hope you found his insights into innovation, leadership, and the future of renewable energy as inspiring as I did. Vishal's vision for pushing solar technology to new heights and challenging terrains and emerging markets truly showcases what's possible in the renewable energy space. To our listeners, as always, thank you for tuning in to Green Giants. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's passionate about renewable energy and innovation. And don't forget to check out Polar Racking as well. Until next time, stay curious and keep leading the way forward.
This episode of Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy, was brought to you by Lead Group Search. If you enjoyed today's discussion and are looking to recruit top talent for your company or find your next career opportunity in the renewable energy sector, visit leadgroupsearch.com. Let's continue driving the future of clean energy together. Until next time, keep pushing toward a greener future.